right. Welcome back to our Petty Astrology regulars. We got the whole crew here today. I am
Woo.
delighted, absolutely delighted. And so, obviously, I'm dressed as a hot dog today. And the reason being is that we're going to be talking about Gemini and Sagittarius, these two sister signs in continuation of our sister sign series. We're well represented with these energies here today. So, I'm very excited about that. So, part of the series was that we were doing each sign in the season that it was actually happening. And right as we speak, it is Cancer season. Gemini season is over. It's over. And so the reason that this didn't happen sooner is because life got in the way. Gemini season flew the fuck by. So, apologies for disrupting the flow of the season. We'll try to get back on track now that we're out of Gemini season. But as we'll see, that really kind of just fits with the energy of Gemini. So, very appropriate. Like, it's late, but never unappreciated for actually showing up. So, it kind of worked out that way. And so, Gemini energy. It's an air sign, it's a mutable
No
sign. It's
doubt.
also ruled by the planet of Mercury, and it's typically symbolized by twins. And it's also typically associated with the third house in astrology. So, what do you think of when you think about Gemini energy? We'll start with Mackenzie, our resident Gemini rising and Gemini moon.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So when I think of Gemini energy, I kind of think of, like butterflies going flower to flower, or like the bees, getting the pollen and kind of like connecting and just going like, kind of like gathering little things here and there, and not spending like too much time anywhere or on like a specific flower. And yeah, it's just kind of like this curious energy that it's um, not like, I think people describe it as like ADHD or whatever, but it's not like that necessarily. It's just kind of like a fast moving, like let's keep it moving type of energy. And yeah, it's this like curiosity as well. I always feel like I'm kind of led by my curiosity, being a Gemini rising. Um, and yeah, just this desire to kind of like gather facts and information and learn about this human experience, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the rest of y'all?
I agree with what Mackenzie said. Gemini to me is a highly mentally active energy. It's very quick, it's fast, it can be exhausting. I speak on that being a Gemini moon and Jupiter, they're
Mm.
conjunct, and I oftentimes wear myself out just
Mm.
by thinking. Like sometimes it'll be the end of the day and it'll be like, wow, I did nothing today, but I'm exhausted because I've been up here in my head all day. But yeah, I agree, especially like the information collecting and can be real yappers. Geminis, we could really talk quite a bit. But I love Gemini energy. It can be a lot at times, but that's not always a bad thing.
Hmm.
I like it. I like air signs.
Yeah. What about you, Jen?
Gemini is, I think, my favorite sign out of all of them. Like if there was a type, mine is Gemini. I just find
Hmm.
the energy to be so fun and light, and they are very perceptive of their environment. And I think that makes for a lot of Geminis have a really good sense of humor, because there's this quickness to their minds, and they take everything around them and they can connect it to other things they know, and just like say maybe like one line and it just cuts right to the heart of what's going on. It's just so funny, and I'd like, yeah, it's yeah, easily best sign. I just love it.
Yeah, I always think about communication when it comes to Gemini. And I love what you said, Kathy, about how much energy our mental processes take. Like, I think that's something that we really underestimate as humans because we have this tendency to be really focused on the physical. And, that takes energy too. But if you do a long day of thinking and even maybe conversation, the amount of brain power that uses, I think we really underestimate what that takes. And so I don't know, it kind of gives some context maybe to this idea of Gemini, like kind of jumping from thing to thing, because I do feel like on an energy level, it's easier, I think, to move through that kind of energy with, it's like you're not going to stay in one place all the time because that's going to take up a lot of energy. It's like you kind of have to keep it moving, keep it going.
Kind of like the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Not going to stay in one place for too long. So, Gemini being ruled by Mercury, very much to do with that communication, mental processes, analysis, and also like movement and transportation. This sign is also associated with kind of like the world around you, your immediate environment, your neighborhood. So, how do you guys see that in relationship to Gemini energy?
I think Geminis are just like the ultimate networkers. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
very, that like insatiable curiosity leads them to, I don't know, be open to talking to like everybody because everybody has a unique life experience. And be like, well, I mean, we might not have the same exact ideas, but I want to see like what this person knows. Like it's you're like picking people's brains a lot, or um asking them questions, like just gathering information from people. And that's kind of like a community connector. Like if you have this one person that is like able to talk to or just knows about a lot of people, that's the person you would go to if you like need something. So they're kind of like, yeah, like the community connector.
And I think that, like, so with that connectability, talking about Gemini as a mutable sign, like, part of that process is that, if you're interacting with a bunch of different people, you're probably going to not want to interact with them all in the same way, right? Because they're different people, they're going to have different ways of communicating and going about things. And so, Gemini being a mutable sign is very adaptable. It's going to adjust the way that it does things, that it does things, to fit the situation, to fit the person that they're speaking with. And that versatility, I think, is like really important to understanding Gemini energy, and of course Sagittarius energy as well. But in terms of like the sign being symbolized by twins, I feel like that feeds really nicely into that energy, right? Because I think when we think about like the twins being a symbol, typically twins, I feel like in our culture, it's almost like twins are the same person in two bodies, the way that we think about it. And the reality is that, twins, they might have a very close bond and connection and might even look like weirdly similar to each other, but they're not the same. They're not totally the same. What do you guys think about the twin association with Gemini?
I think that it's a very like misunderstood representation. I think people view it as like almost like that Cain and Abel, like good twin, bad twin, like two-faced or whatever. Like all those like, I don't know, stereotypes that you think of with Gemini, I think they come from some of that like twins, but I think of it more as like our human self and then like our soul or like our spirit self, kind of like they're two separate things, but like they combine to be like one thing. It's not like that good and evil. It's like that, soul self and then the human self, and they combine. And I think that's also part of that adaptability and just like that multifacetedness of like being a human. Like we're able to, we all have those capabilities of like doing really bad things, but also like really good things. And it's like that whole spectrum, I think. And that's kind of how I view Gemini energy, kind of. Um, but yeah, just very multifaceted.
Yeah, there's more than one way to be a person. And I feel like that
hmm
is something that, as somebody with a Gemini Mars, I feel like I've garnered a lot of resentment from people at times from not being the same all the time, not always doing the same thing or wanting the same thing. And so I feel like that's really well put in terms of like, it's not like our good side and our evil side. It's like we are multifaceted beings, and Gemini with the twins is representing the fact that there are multiple facets to this energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are too quick to assign good and bad. We see it everywhere with everything. So if there's two things, that must mean one's good and
Mm-hmm.
one's bad, right? No, but I feel like that's a stereotype that gets pinned on Gemini quite often. Um, More so than like other signs with duality, with say Pisces, for example. Um, but any Gemini meme you see, if it has twins, like there's one like what are the
Mm-hmm.
like the drama masks like
Oh
that
yeah.
represent like acting or whatever you see. It's like that kind of thing going on with it, and it's like I don't know. I'm so over people with the good and bad. Some things are. There's two sides to Gemini, just like every
Mm-hmm.
other sign, and just let things be as they are. That's my public service announcement for this podcast. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
listening.
Cathy. Much needed.
Yeah. I'm always a Gemini defender when people are talking about how they're two-faced or whatever. It's like that's even in the mythology of like the constellation of Castor and Pollux, the twins. Like there was one that was mortal, one that was immortal. So there's like this um, dichotomy between like being up in the air, very like high-minded ideal, and then on the ground, like nitty-gritty as a mortal person. There's different ways that we would move about in both worlds. So it's not that they're two-faced. It's just whatever the situation calls for, they're very adaptable and able to, you know, change in whatever way they need to, you know, make the situation comfortable for other people. Like they're not going to be like super formal around their friends or with their parents are going to be like dropping cuss words or whatever unless they have that kind of relationship with them. But like they're very as an air sign just very aware of the way that they communicate with people and the way that their words come across, or just how what a situation needs. Like they're very able to read the room, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a relationship to the environment, like understanding what to do when, which I think is a really important skill. Like if you're the same way all of the time, probably you're not going to be acting right in certain situations. So like having that adaptability rather than viewing it as a negative, I view it as something that's just like, a flexibility that's going to make you able to exist in a lot of different spaces.
I was just gonna say, I think with Gemini as well, they're not very close-minded. It's not like a closed-minded energy. They're just kind of able to, like pick people's brain and be like, oh, how do you feel about this? And then it's kind of like they try that idea on for size and just see like how it fits with their own like set of beliefs. And so they might appear like they're like two-faced or they're changeable or whatever, but they're just very adaptable, trying on different ideas and seeing how it fits with how they are in that moment. I think they're a very like moment to moment energy as well, um, changing moment to moment.
I think that doesn't, just because they change a lot doesn't mean that they're not like a solid person and solid in the knowledge of who they are. Like there's this like misconception that Geminis are like super flighty and like, they don't know anything about themselves. They just like, I don't know, take personality traits or whatever from the people around them. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like they do try things on for size, or like they'll maybe take an idea and like repeat it and see how it works and like how people respond to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they believe it 100%, but I don't know. There's just like this like they don't take it so seriously. They don't take life so seriously. What they say, like I think they value words and ideas very much. But it's like it's not that serious, to like try something out to change your mind. It's not that big of a deal, which I really appreciate about them because they are very open to, getting new information and changing their mind. And there's other signs that are very much not like that, and it can be really irritating. So I
Yes.
appreciate the adaptability that Gemini brings.
Yeah, so I feel like this is a good moment to shift over to Sagittarius because also a mutable sign, also very versatile. Sagittarius is a fire sign. It is ruled by the planet Jupiter. It's typically symbolized by the archer and associated with the ninth house in astrology. So, what comes to mind when you think about Sagittarius energy?
That one kid that's in your philosophy class that won't shut up. Sagittarius, they and Gemini, I think, are my two favorite sister signs because they are very, very similar um, in different ways. I think Sagittarius is a little bit more attached to their ideas, and it's more of like a ethical or values based oh my god interaction with ideas than it is with Gemini just being like curiosity. Sagittarius is more searching the truth, and it might be just their individual truth. They're always like on a quest of some kind. It's the Sagittarian like life experiences. Life is a grand quest, and we're just gathering a bunch of experiences that will come together to make who we are and our truth and our story. I'm a Sagittarius sun in Mercury. I keep saying us, but yes, that's why.
I always think of like the teacher or lecturer. Like I often when I think of Sagittarius energy, I see somebody in front of other people communicating their ideas in some way. That's like the first image that comes to mind.
Yeah, mine is like the guy with like a guitar around like a fire that's like just playing and speaking and telling stories, and everybody's like listening and like maybe being like, "You're kind of annoying, dude," but sometimes it's nice.
I think of like the backpacker, like the world traveler, the one that's like constantly on this like quest and like adventure and journey to who knows where. It's kind of like it's always off somewhere in the future, and they're just constantly like seeking and just wanting to expand their horizons, I guess. That's kind of that energy I think of. And um, also like the philosopher, just like on this quest for knowledge, I guess.
The teacher, the student. The picture I get in my head is just a car on the open road. That's how I view my Sag rising. Um, I love Sag energy. I think it's the Sag and Gemini axis is maybe the axis where the signs are most alike, like you said. Um, I feel like they're so similar. They play out in different ways, but they're very similar. Both, I think one of the biggest similarities is the information seeking and gathering knowledge. They both love the shit out of that.
I think there's like a very big tie between like the teacher and the student, and they are one and the same, and they are each other, and they are, both necessary parts of the learning process. There's somebody that has the information, there's somebody that's getting it, but the person that's getting it is also giving information to the teacher. There's like this beautiful exchange that happens. Um, and I think, Gemini and Sagittarius get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that Jupiter rulership, that idea of expansion and travel, particularly because part of I think the Sagittarian learning is through experience. And so like sometimes yeah, it can be like in a classroom setting and be more a little bit more formal, but also I think with that Sagittarius energy, not unlike Gemini, it is very experience based too. Like it is important to try different things, to, take that road trip, take that flight, try these different cultures, experience them for yourself, and, gathering that information and maybe bringing it back to like a more formal environment or, doing something with that information to, share it on a larger scale, whether it's formally or informally.
I think Sagittarius is definitely like student of life, energy. Like no matter what they're doing, they're like learning something, gaining something from that experience. Um it's never like a lost moment. Like even if something seems like not ideal, like then you take that experience and you can apply that to future scenarios. So it's yeah, that's always been my Sagittarian outlook. I think it's like that Jupiter aspect too of it being like looking on the bright side of like what's happening. Be like, okay, how can I take this maybe a horrible experience? Like, what's a lesson that I can take from this that will help me in the future to maybe avoid that next time? Or maybe just learn more about yourself. Like, all of that is valuable.
Yeah, I do think about Sagittarius in terms of like having a vision because I feel like it's energy that, there's a vision before you take the road trip. It may not play out the way that you had it in your head, but the vision is what gets you in the car and gets you on the trip, right? So I do feel like that's one of the strengths of Sagittarian energy. And that can also tie into, I think, the optimism that's associated with Sagittarius energy is because like when we have these visions, typically, hopefully they're not these like negative visions, right? There's optimism and like possibility, the potential for what that, exploration could lead to, the adventure of it all. And I think that's really important to understand about Sagittarius energy and like how it can play out.
Yeah, it's a very like forward looking sign. Like there's might not know exactly what the road is, but there's a goal at the end of it, even if it's just um yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. Major we'll figure it out
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Yeah, kind of like Jen was like talking and was like, I thought I thought I knew where this was going, but I'm just chilling, man.
We just go where the wind takes us.
Yeah, very very sad of you.
Oh,
What about stereotypes? There are certain stereotypes that come with all of these signs. What do you think the Sag stereotypes are?
partier, the drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can be extra energy. Like it can go big or go home, maybe both.
They're
Know
like,
it
more,
all.
more, more.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, that's very Jupiterian. It's Jupiter, in astrology is like typically associated with like luck by some people. And I think that there's a lot more to it than that. And it's really like a magnifier. So, like, if a Sagittarian does something or is interested in something, there's a good chance that it's going to have a little bit of like drama to it. It's going to be extra.
Yeah, they're really into it. I mean, look at Jupiter. It's a gas
Yeah.
giant. Have you,
Balls to the
you
wall.
know, we've seen the solar system. How big is it? That's Jupiter's influence. And then as far as the luck thing goes, again, back to people assigning good and bad, but I digress.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
okay, I'll go on a little sad rant about luck.
Let's go.
So luck is ways that people like assign, I think, their happiness to external factors. Be like, oh, like this happened to me, like I have such bad luck, bad things always happen to me. And we make our own luck. Like it's about your outlook on things, because if you're just focused on all of the negative things that happen to you, like, oh my god, my life sucks, like all of these negative things keep happening, like blah blah blah, that's all you're gonna see. That's like what you are training your brain to be able to recognize is when bad things happen, and then the good things you just kind of like, oh, whatever, like that was just like a fluke. But if you switch that up and be like, oh, look at all of these wonderful things that are happening for me, um, or just being focusing more on the positive and being like, okay, maybe that wasn't an ideal situation, but I still had this thing happen, or I learned this lesson, and that um will help me in the future. So I think people, when they talk about Sagittarians like having luck, or just like, things happen for them, they make that happen because they're looking for the positive sides of things when they go into any situation. It's just kind of like, oh, whatever, like anything negative that happens is like, that's something good will come in later. Like it's not
Mm.
always expecting bad things to happen,
Yeah.
basically.
I
mhm.
think too that like part of that luck thing is like if you don't buy the ticket and go on the trip, there is no luck, you know? And I think that Sagittarian energy tends to take the shot. And so if you don't take the shot, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you know? So I feel like that's
Yep.
a very Sagittarian thing. And so the luck is more associated with they did the thing. They took the shot, and therefore there's more of a chance of them being lucky because they tried in the first place, you know. And there's probably a bunch of times where they tried and it didn't work out maybe how they wanted to, but they kept going, and therefore the capacity to be lucky exists simply by just like doing stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like not getting so downtrodden when things don't go exactly your way and just being like, oh, well, next time. And then
Yeah.
just like spin the wheel again.
Yeah.
Learned something. Maybe it wasn't the thing that you set out to learn, but there was learning done. And so that leads, I think, beautifully into talking about Gemini and Sagittarius as sister signs, because these are both signs that I think are willing to do stuff, just do stuff. There's like a movement associated with both of these signs. They're not going to be stuck in the same place at one time, and therefore they're both very knowledge based signs. Like you learn so much by doing things, and they're both mutable signs. So they're learning different things, they're trying different things, they're open to different things. And I think that those are all qualities that make for some style or level of intelligence, because you're just simply like collecting data, you're experiencing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I think of them together, I think of how like Gemini governs like our hands and our arms, and it's kind of like the micro version where it's like you can the things that you can touch like that are right in front of you that you can like pick up with your hands, and it's just like those small things. But then on the other side, like Sagittarius, it's like the legs and the thighs, and like those are like what takes you places, and like it's kind of like leaps and bounds, kind of like the macro version of that Gemini energy. And they both get you places, and it's both movement is associated with it, but it's just like a different kind of movement, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I feel like, I don't know. I think perhaps Gemini has more like hamster wheel energy, whereas Sag has a bit more direction.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my lived experience of it, how it plays in my chart anyway. But I don't know if you guys have any insight on that. But they both definitely have movement for sure. I just think Sag has more measured movement. Not always, though. Not always.
When there's a goal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like with Sag, there is always like this overarching theme, or like, I don't know, whatever it is that there's like, whatever that Sagittarius personally values, like that's going to be a theme throughout like everything that they do, like taking them to that goal. They might not know exactly the direction they're taking, but they're like, okay, well, I know I want to end up here, so I'm going to go that way. We'll figure it out along the way. And then I think
Yeah.
Gemini is just kind of like, well, let's taste everything and see what I like. Like, we'll just
Mm-hmm.
go here and there.
Is this really what I want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like maybe
Yeah.
we'll do like 180-degree turn and go the other way, and just for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some Gemini
Yeah,
stuff.
I feel like with Sag, if you
For
get
sure.
turned around, you'd be like, okay, now I'm going to recalibrate my compass and go back to the direction that I was going
Right.
originally. Like I might have got off course, but like there's like a recalibrating process.
Yeah, I'll get back there.
I also think one of the most, I guess, important things about Gemini and Sag energy is that they need things to be fun. They need things to be light. That doesn't mean that they're not serious, because Sagittarius can be very serious. Gemini can be pretty serious, but there has to be like fun in the learning. It can't be a slog, especially as being both of them being kind of like students of life. It being like, okay, well, if I'm going to be here doing all of this stuff, I might as well make it fun. You know, might have a little laugh, like. And again, like we were talking about with Gemini, having humor is you need intelligence, you need perception you need to be able to pull from things that you've already known to kind of come up with those things, the things to say that are really funny. So if you're not paying attention to the world around you, if you're not concerned with what's going on, it's really hard to make a really funny joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the relationship between intelligence and like humor and, you know, constructing humor. Especially like a lot of comedians I have Gemini energy and probably Sag energy too.
Yeah, I feel like both of them really have life as like a game,
Hmm.
and it's just meant to be played. It's not, if you're playing a video game and you're just like trying to like min max, like when you're playing like Stardew and you're like, okay, I need to like do everything perfectly and to you know get the most amount of money that I can possible. Like that's not the fun of it, at least for
Hmm.
me. Like,
Yeah.
it's exploring and talking to people, and there's this like cave I can go into. Why don't I try that? Like,
Yeah.
oops, my plants died. It's just like you're learning and it's having fun and not just being focused on what other people want you to value. It's like kind of finding your own way
Yeah.
and having like they both have their own like personal goals and values and things that they're trying to do, and they're not necessarily going to listen to other people trying to tell them that's like not serious. Like, why do you care about that? And just like, whatever, like, man, that's what I like.
And I think too that speaks to like the mutability, the versatility of both signs is like if something is not interesting or fun, there's like a whole world of other stuff to dip into. Like, so, I think that like if it's not interesting, if it's not amusing, these are both signs that are like, well, got a lot of other stuff I could be doing, I'll go do that instead.
Yeah, I really appreciate how they're able to like pick things up and then put them back down if it doesn't suit them. Again, that being able to like change your mind when presented with new information, not just being so stuck in your ways that you can't like take advantage of something else good that's coming in. And I think that's also part of like the luck that's associated with it. Like, you're just open to seeing the opportunities and the new ways of doing things or the new stuff or whatever that's coming in. Be like, oh, let's explore it and maybe it'll work. It Yeah, you, again, like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Yeah,
being mutable is kind of a sleigh.
right? Mutable slay, mutable slay.
Yeah, like with this polarity, I just think of, like the student and the teacher and just like everything that comes with that and how, the student can become the teacher. And it's kind of like the teacher can then become the student in a way. And it's just like this kind of flow of energy in a way. Um, that's like when I think of this axis, that's like exactly what I think of. It's just like that dynamic
Hmm.
and how it kind of can play the opposite role sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where that thought's going.
No, I think that's a great point because being only a student or being only a teacher is really limiting. And so that
Mm-hmm.
really does speak to that
Mm-hmm.
mutability very well too, because like I think to be a good student or to be a good teacher, sharing what you know and also being open to the fact that you don't know everything. Like just because you know a lot, maybe you might even be an expert in a certain subject, but that doesn't mean that there's not things for you to learn. And if you were to take that position, it would be kind of stupid, like wouldn't be very educated of you to limit yourself in that way. Like, oh, I just know a lot about this thing, and therefore I'm going to close my mind off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fluidity between the two, like by necessity, to make, if you want to be really good at either of those things, I think it helps to be open to both being a student and being a teacher. And also likewise, like Jen was saying, if you are somebody that considers yourself a student, like a perpetual student, you probably have things that you could share, and you might
Mm-hmm.
kind of shore up the knowledge that you already have by finding ways to communicate that information in a certain way, like as a more of a teacher role.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One
Yeah.
of the best ways to learn is to teach other people. Yeah, it's like the best way to do it, because then you can find out like, oh, maybe I wasn't so clear on this one thing, and I'll need to go like look that back up, and then I can share it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like being a student is, there's always going to be people that know maybe just a little bit less than you that you can share something with. There's like maybe people like a couple steps behind, just being like, oh yeah, last week I learned this, so like here's the information so that you can have it when you get there. And that's kind of the role of the teacher. They're just a student that's a little bit further along on the path. It's not that they're like up on this pedestal that you're never going to reach. Like you're both on the same road, sort of. Like maybe they're just giving you a map of like what they had gone through before, for your own journey.
It feels like what we're doing right now is very like Gemini Sag, yapping and teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
And learning, because we're listening to each other.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Wow, what a
I
concept.
know.
What a
I know.
concept.
Yeah, and one of the negative things, like I think if you've ever met like somebody with Sagittarius energy that only views themselves as a teacher, that could be like, it's very blowhard energy. It's like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's like that one teacher or professor that's just sitting up at the front of the podium and just talks for like a full hour and doesn't take any questions or comments. It's just like, all right, that's it. Like, that was it.
Mhm.
I'm done. I'm the expert. You don't have anything to tell me. So there's on the negative side of the Sagittarius, it can just be kind of like know it all. I
Mhm.
have all the answers. You're wrong. I'm right. Like, I don't need to listen to you because I know more.
I think the Gemini version of that would be like over trying one thing and the next thing and almost not even giving it a chance, like just deciding very immediately, like I'm moving on, like you kind of just take a little bit of a bite, like sit with it for like a second and
Mm-hmm.
see how you feel about it before you decide you're over it, like they can, in the extremes. I feel like they operate in very opposing ways sometimes.
Have you ever met a Gemini placement that never shuts up about themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's really annoying. I have. I've cut several people off for that.
Yeah,
That's one, like, Gemini stereotype that I've found. Mm,
kind of true,
Mm-hmm.
kind of real. Yeah, what do you think that is? I feel like maybe part of it is like it's the closest example to reach for is like self, just like I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of goes back to the Gemini being a yapper thing. I don't know if they don't realize it. I I don't know. Gemini rules communication. Is that it?
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
know. I
know.
feel like both of the signs, Sagittarius and Gemini, can get very caught up in like their own personal journey and
Mhm.
maybe not recognizing that other people are also on those journeys. And
Right.
maybe you have something that you could learn from people on their other journeys. Like it's not just about you.
Yeah.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah. Like you're sharing so much about your experience. Other people have experience to share if you can like stop for 5 minutes and listen.
Mm-hmm.
That part. I think Gemini could very well use to
Mm.
slow down. Myself included. All Gemini placements. Just take
No.
whew,
No.
Make
just
me.
stop.
Maybe
Stop.
put a couple of the 7 spinning plates down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you don't have to juggle all that. Just
Mhm.
quit it.
Yeah, like maybe not everything at
Slow down.
once. Both
Take a
of these
deep breath.
signs, like maybe not all at once.
Yeah, I would say that was Sagittarius too. Like more
Mhm.
is not always better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. No.
Well, I'm just gonna say, Gemini Sagittarius energy, it's a sleigh. Very well represented here. We know it well. We love it. And, if you're looking for a good time, this is the axis that you want to call, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you need a party, like you need to call up your
yeah,
Sagittarius Gemini friends if it's
Awesome.
like the energy is getting low. Like we need someone to pump up the energy here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Life would be so boring without Gemini and Sagittarius energy.
Literally, I
Right?
wouldn't want to be here.
Like,
No,
Mm-mm.
we
yeah,
need it.
yeah. Think back to your
Mhm.
class clown. I bet they were a
Yeah.
Gemini or Sag
Mhm.
in their big three,
Yep.
no doubt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we got some of them right here.
Present.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of our sister sign series. We'll be back very soon doing Cancer and Capricorn, so don't you worry. But I will
Another
see you.
sleigh axis.
Right, another sleigh axis. There's so many. There's
Yeah.
so many sleighs.
Cool.
So thank you guys for being here. Always appreciate hearing your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.
Woo. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.